Good morning. My name is Etuete Shiningayamwe. You can call me Miss Etuete, and I am your tutor for Curriculum Theory and Practice, BEd Sct41. Welcome again to 2019 Bachelor's in Education Honors Degree Examination Based Contact Class, January 2019. Welcome. Welcome to our introduction. This module of the Curriculum Theory and Practice A, I'm going to briefly explain to you about my presentation. So in this presentation, I will discuss some of the content covered in your study guide to help you in preparation for exam. Please note that I will not give attention to the whole content, as you are also aware that this is quite a very huge and thick book. So I'm only going to go to help you through on few basic guides to help you in preparation for the upcoming examination. Please note that I will not give attention to the whole content. For any queries, please contact or send me an email. My contacts are going to be provided at the end of my presentation. However, before you study, I would want you to familiarize yourself with the learning outcome or the learning outcome of the content of the module. The learning outcomes are found at the beginning of the learning unit. It's also very important that you pay attention to learning activities and practice them thoroughly. Go through them one by one just to get a bit more of an understanding. And only study your study guide for your exam and study all the units in the module in preparation for exams. While I'm speaking about this, I would want to highlight that despite that I am not going to mention everything, it's also important that you highlight or you familiarize and you study all other content issues that are not part of this presentation. And it's also very important that you pay attention to the learning activities. The learning activities are more like exercises. They are more like eye-openers. They kind of help you to understand thoroughly the content of the study guide. So it's important that you practice them one by one for you to be able to understand the whole content. What is curriculum theory and practice A? What is this whole content? What are the study guide? What are this module entails? Briefly, this module will enable you to understand the contribution of philosophy toward curriculum development, evaluate the influence of philosophies on curriculum practices, provide you with a critical analysis on curriculum designs and models related to curriculum foundations and orientations. It also helps you to analyze the role of educational philosophies in curriculum theory and practice, and inform and educate you on the importance of parental involvement in the school. While we are speaking about the major content or the major issues highlighted in the module, it's important that you familiarize what is philosophy. What is educational philosophy? What is curriculum development? What does it mean to evaluate the influence of philosophies on the curriculum practices? We all are aware that when we speak about philosophy, we are referring to a body of knowledge, the ideology, the beliefs. And when I speak about curriculum development, evaluate the influence of philosophies on curriculum practices. These are some of the key issues that you really need to kind of highlight. You should understand prior to the beginning of the content, because these are key themes in the module. Upon the completion of this module, you should be able to explain the input of philosophy into the curriculum development and practices. What does philosophy add? What did that philosophy contribute to the educational development or to the curriculum practices. What is philosophy? What type of ideology? What are the contribution of the ideologies? What are the contribution of certain beliefs, certain ideologies into curriculum practices? Analyze the curriculum design and models and relate them to curriculum orientation. Investigate the designed models, VC-oriented plans. We are continuing with the learning outcomes. Describe the role of educational philosophy into the curriculum orientations and foundations. As I've mentioned earlier, when we speak about philosophy, okay, we have defined that philosophy is more of a set of ideologies, a set of ideas or beliefs. Now, when we speak about describe the role of educational philosophies into the curriculum orientations and foundations, what does this set of ideology, what contribution had they made to the orientation or to the foundation or to the establishment of the curriculum? You should also be able to understand what part does philosophy of education has on the curriculum coordination and plans. At the end of the module, students should also be able to suggest and recommend the roles of schools in their community and discuss the importance of parental involvement. When we are talking about suggest the roles of the school, what is a school? What is that? What does school contribute in the community? And imagine, while we are speaking about all these issues of the learning outcome, I would want you to reflect back at home. When we are talking about all these issues, do not think far, but focus on your area. Focus on your current establishment. If you think of a primary school in your village, if you think of a secondary school in your region, if you think about a kindergarten or a primary school or a junior primary school establishment in your village, in your region, in your street, in your district, what contribution that this institution has on the village, on the school level, on the village level, on the individual living in that area? What impact school has in the community? If we have a school in the community, what are you expecting? What are the benefits? What are the advantages? What benefit does this school has toward the community? It could be that it's also contributing to educating learners. It helps to enlighten, and it also helps to open up people's mind. It also helps to, when we have a school in the area, what are the benefits? What are the positive impacts that you are perhaps expecting or seeing or benefiting? So, I have just finished the learning outcomes, which are 5. Now, in the next topic, I'm going to briefly take you through on the unit of this module. This module consists of 5 units which slowly introduce you to the contribution of philosophy toward curriculum development. Remember when I said the key theme or the key topic in this module of curriculum theory and practice, it's about curriculum development, it's about philosophy, it's about educational philosophy and curriculum development. Now, this module having 5 units, the 5 units will slowly introduce you to certain issues. So module 1 give you an explanation on philosophy. There are different types of philosophies. There is ontology, there is anthropology, there is epistemology, there is axiology, there is ethics, there is logic, and there is metaphysics. I do not want to define what does logic, ideology, ethics, logic, and metaphysics does. But what I want you to take through is that if you are going through all these philosophies, I want to explain to you that philosophies, as I've mentioned, is a set of beliefs. We look at an example of the philosophy of, for instance, ethics, or the philosophy of anthropology. These are kind of different of ideologies and ideas. It's a set of ideas, and each person have their own philosophy. They believe they believe in their own way of doing things. Even in our own ordinary individuals, we do not have the same beliefs. The way religious oriented people take things is not the same as perhaps the musician, for instance. We kind of have different types of ideologies. So it's important that you study what is ontology. What does the philosophy of ontology entails? What does the anthropologist believe? What are the epistemology, axiology, ethics, and logic and metaphysics beliefs? In Unit 2 gives a critical evaluation on the influence of ideology on curriculum practice, highlighting on ideologies of liberalism, conservatism, utopianism, Marxism, and totalitarianism. While Unit 3 of it's also important that while we are in Unit 2, it's important that you also need to orientate yourself which of these ideologies played a role in the Namibian context and currently applied in the Namibian education sector. When you are discussing this type of ideologies, it's important that if a question comes up to say give a briefly explanation on the ideologies of Marxism and explain how they have played a role in the Namibian context. You do not just need to explain the ideology as it is. Well, you can perhaps say the Marxism, these are the type of ideologies that believe in equal opportunities. They believe that all people should be given equal opportunity in the education sector. Education should open the people's mind, all those type of things. But how did this contribute? You take a part. Now, the second question will be asking that it's important that you take a part, explain to the reader how did this ideology, what contribution has it made? Take few topics from the ideology and relate them on how did they contribute to the Namibian philosophy of education. Unit 3 gave an analysis on the critique of curriculum design and the relationship to the curriculum orientations and foundations, while Unit 4 explained the role of educational philosophy. What are the input on the following in curriculum theory and practices? And they focus on issues of, especially the theories of essentialism, basic academic knowledge, skills, and characters. Unit 4, it gave out, continue with the theories of perennialism. Perennialism is more focusing on logical reasoning skills, intellectual thinking, investigations, liberalism, and awareness raising to reason better. While the essentialism theories, for instance, they believe on just imparting knowledge, basic academic knowledge, skills, and characters, but they do not really kind of develop the critical thinking of students, of learners, in terms of intellectual thinking, in terms of able to make investigations, in terms of able to raise awareness and really make people aware, for instance, to advocate for their own rights, for instance, to stand up for radical ideas, and able to really kind of bring more changes in the community. While the progressivism learning is more on vocational skills, social skills, teamwork, integrated learning with theory and practice. While I just kind of want to take you through on these three different types of educational philosophy in Unit 4, which have the essentialism, and then we have the perennialism, and then we have the progressivism. Now, if the question is coming, explain which of the theories is most suitable to the Namibian education sector. It can be that all the three theories are acceptable in the Namibian sectors, because if you look at the Namibian sectors, in the Namibian education sectors, we are focusing on both the academic, on the logic, the reasoning, and on the vocational education. Now, all you need to do, even if you pick one theory, let me say you decided that the curriculum for Namibian education is more on progressism. That's what you believe. And then you explain that why, because it's focusing on vocational skills, social skills, about building relationships, about addressing issues of becoming teamwork to address national development issues, integrated learning with theory and practice. It's important that you provide practical examples. Like you need to reason so that you should convince the reader that you understand. And then we come to Unit 5. Unit 5 gives a highlight on the role of schools in their community. This may include educating young people as active citizens, rights and responsibilities, active participation in community development, etc. Now, I still need to take you through on the role of school, as I have mentioned. Think about what role does this type of schools provide to the community. In terms of maybe career development, in terms of educating the young people, providing active citizenship who are able to contribute, to participate in some kind of community work, social responsibilities, and other issues of on the long run contributing to employment. Because if we have a school in the community, many of these people are educated, and when people are educated, they're able to liberate their mind, they're able to tackle and address issues of poverty, they're able to be role models for their own other generation. Look at the school. Compare a school a village or a community with a school and with the other one that does not have a school. What are the contributions? What are the factors that you could pick from? What are the benefits of the school that has, of the community that has a school versus that one does not have? Now, I've come to the end of the explanations of key study units. As I've mentioned, these units are 5. Now, what are some of the key module themes that you should be able to look at? For you to understand issues related to curriculum development, please pay attention to the following concept as part of their key issues in the module. What is an ideology? What is epistemology? What is character education, liberalism, anthropology, ontology, and philosophy of education? We are continuing with the key module themes, the paradigm shift in the education, changes that occurred in the education sector. There will be a question that, for instance, going to ask, explain the paradigm shift in the education sector of Namibia. You are at least expected to speak about the changes that occurs in the education sector. What are those changes? How did they bring a change? What are the benefits? What are the positive disadvantage of the changes that have taken place? Epstein framework of parental involvement. There is Epstein is one of the scholars who believes on parental involvement into the education of children, of learners. Now, what are this framework? What does it entail? Please go through. Productive citizenship. What does it mean to be a productive citizen? Remember, as a citizen, we have rights and we have responsibilities. Now, as a citizen, as a productive citizen, what does it mean to be a productive citizen? A productive citizen is able to vote, is able to participate in their socio-economic activities, they are able to advocate for their rights, they are able to stand up for their rights and for other people's rights, they are able to help one another in terms of poverty eradication, for instance. They are able to raise awareness in terms of healthy education, in terms of rights, human rights issues, in terms of they are also able to participate in socio-economic development activities, social projects around the communities. It's just not about voting, but for instance, we can also speak about responsibilities, because as long as a productive citizen have their rights protected, they also have their responsibility, and they are obliged to participate, or they're obliged to really exercise this type of responsibility, because being a productive citizen, it's just not about having your rights or exercising your rights, but it's also about advocating. It's also about standing for your responsibilities. You must stand for, because it's being a responsible person, being accountable, that also makes you a productive citizen, because you are able to participate. You are able to raise your voice, and you are also able to listen to the voiceless. The wellness aims of education. What are wellness, and what is the wellness aims of education? What does education what is the impact of education? Why education? We also speak about the roles of schools and learners in the community. I have mentioned that. What role does schools and learners play in the community? And I would want you to open up your mind when you are listening to all these type of things. It's important that you reflect and conceptualize issues back at home. Colleagues, do not think far. Think of issues around your life, in your home, in your village, in your street, at the school where you are teaching. What role can learners and school play in the community? And when we are speaking about the school, we are just not talking about the buildings. We are not just talking about the buildings, and we are looking at the whole institution. We are looking at the teachers, the school principal, the HODs, the school board, and we are looking about the learners. Because these are the people that made up the school. It's not about an empty building, but what roles can the institution of the school can play. Think about issues of maybe creating awareness in the community in terms of HIV and AIDS, poverty, income generating activities, social contemporary issues of maybe standing against gender-based violence, issues of environment, maybe establishment of an environmental club that a school can start a cleaning campaign in the area, other social issues that the school could really bring positive changes in the community. The concept of inclusive education. What does inclusive education entails? Remember, the Namibian Constitution, at chapter 3 of the Namibian Constitution, speak about the fundamental human right, where we are all born free. The inclusive education have to do inclusivity, like our current president, he likes saying nobody should feel left out. The issue of inclusive education entails the including even those who are living with disability in classes. Even if you are not able to see, you are maybe physically or visually impaired, you should also be able to participate in the school. Not because you are an orphan, or you are not able to pay for the school, or you do not have access to, maybe you are someone living with disability, you are not able to be part of the school. Productive citizens and how positive characteristics are instilled in learners. This is more of a general question. I know these are type of the questions that are also in the study guide, but it's important that you also look at them as as a teacher. What are the positive characteristics that we need to instill in our schools? We need to instill learners to be self-independent, self-actualization. We need to instill characters of maybe entrepreneurship, because we are looking at the society where employment opportunities are really getting scarce, and just schooling a learner for the sake of knowing A, B, and C, but they're not able even to go in the industry and perhaps become entrepreneurs or do their own things in terms of developing their own skills, in terms of working for themselves as independent students. As productive citizens. What describe a full service? What describe a full service school? Look at also at the principle of curriculum design and describe the application of these principles in schools. The learner-centered the learner-centered VC, the teacher-centered approach. What is the difference between a learner-centered, and what is the difference between a learner-centered and a teacher-centered? Sorry. And remember, the learner-centered and the VC, the teacher-centered, this is like pedagogical issues. Remember, in the learner-centered, the learners are viewed as active participants in the education process, while the teacher-centered, this is an approach where the teacher is the only boss in class, and learners come to class as empty vessels, and they only need to be filled by the teachers, by everything. But the learners, we have now introduced in the education sector of Namibia, they have introduced the learner-centered approach, where learners are also able to like share ideas. There's active participation. There's an interaction between the teacher and the learner, and the teacher brainstorm on certain issues and they share ideas. They learn from one another, not just in terms of coming to class and you talk and you talk and you talk like the way I'm now presenting without questions to you. I'm actually doing a teacher-centered approach, program-centered model, and how both teaching and learning occurs using this model. What is a program-centered design model, and how both? And it's very important that if the question comes, what is a program-centered design model, and how does teaching and learning occurs using this model? You briefly explain that the program-centered design model is A and B and C and N, and it teaching and learning occurs using this model. Maybe the teacher is also part of the solution. Both learners and teachers are part of the solution, but it's not only one party who is involved in the project. So it's important that you answer questions also looking at the question as it is. Make a comparison between the process and the product models. The educational philosophy which I applied in the Namibian upper primary phase, focusing on the aims of the curriculum, critically discuss the aims and goals of upper primary education in Namibia. What are the aims? Those things are very clear in the study guide. I don't want to take you through one by one, but what are the aims and goals of upper primary education in Namibia? Typical roles that school play in their community, I think I've mentioned that. Aspect of how classic model consider curriculum development, and look at the importance of parental involvement in children education, possible practical involvement activities of parents in the Namibian context. Well, let's think about the importance of parental involvement in children's education in Namibia and the possible. What are these practical involvement? What can a parent do to practically involve into the learner's education? Maybe they can pop up at the school and speak to the schools, to the learners' teachers. What practical examples? It's not about attending parents' meeting, but it's also about actively participating into the education process or the learning process of the child, doing homework together, making like maybe courtesy visit at the school, having a good relationship with the teachers, especially the class teachers or the school principals. These are some of the practical involvement. It's just not about a parent can attend the meeting, but you need to extend more on all those issues. Explain the three parent-teacher relationship and make a distinction of humanistic education, the role of educator and the learner in the program-centered design model. I think I've mentioned already that. Theory of essentialism and pioneerism, like maybe make an analysis or compare. Full-service school, component of curriculum framework, philosophy of education, curriculum, institutional development. I almost come to the end of the presentation of the key themes. Now I'm going to take you through to issues of other further information. Now that I have taken you through on the very important aspect of the study guide, and please go and read further. I also want you to participate, to go through on other issues. Please pay attention to all the units in the study guide. Do not just read on what I have mentioned, but focus on the study guide just to get a bigger picture on certain issues that I might not have really discussed very well. Do not study to memorize, but always try to understand. The moment you start only studying to memorize, it will be very difficult. That study guide is thick, very, very, very thick. So it's important that you do not only study to memorize, but always try to understand the concept. Just understand the concept. And pay attention to the allocation of the marks. Colleagues, if the question is asking for 20 marks and you only gave me 5, I'm only going to give you 5 out of 20. So it's important that look at the mark allocation and write clearly. Some sentences are long. They do not even have a beginning and the end. You have like maybe 20 or 20 paragraphs just in one paragraph. And the reader will be struggling to find out what is going on. Is it A or B or C or D? So please write clearly. Pay attention to the allocation of the mark. Be brief and straight to the point. Be brief. If you want to say a point, do not drive from Rehoboth to Gobabis, but you are trying to go to Wakahanja. Be straightforward and straight to the topic. Provide practical examples to earn more marks. The more you provide more practical examples, the more you actually demonstrating to the leader or to the tutor that this subject is on top of yourself. Like when I was speaking about parental involvement, you just don't mention that, yeah, a teacher can attend the parent meeting without practically providing other further extensive practical examples. The exam will be a 2 hours and 30-minute paper. So please arrive on time to avoid confusions and handle your time properly. Use mark allocation for each question as a guide for how many facts needed, and pay attention to the question and verbs. If the question says mention, you are not going to discuss. You were just asked to mention. So mention as it is mentioned. That's mention. If it's discuss, briefly discuss. Briefly means in a very short way, briefly discuss. Identify or summarize. Look at the verb used in asking the question. Answer all the questions for the exam marks. Please read your instruction. Some question marks are written, answer all the questions. Some are perhaps written, answer only 2 questions. Please read your instruction. Provide practical examples to earn more marks. Write neatly and eligible. We are not doctors. Please handle your handwriting properly. Number your question clearly. And as I have mentioned, I'm available after hours between 1800 hours and 20 every day. My contact number is 081 2333 033 081 2333 033, and my email address is S for Sarah, H for honey, I for information, E for X, T for Thomas, U for uniform, W for water, E for X, T for Thomas, E for X again, at Gmail. SHIETUWETE@gmail.com. I thank you very much and I wish you all the best.